At 5:25 this evening, police and fire were dispatched and transmitted a mass casualty incident.
A skydiving plane roars down the runway. It takes off and experiences engine trouble and then comes back in for an emergency landing and veers off into the woods with 15 people aboard, all fighting to survive. What went wrong at Cross Keys Airport on July 2nd, and how does it echo a chilling crash just weeks ago? There's actually a lot to this story, so stick around on Taking Off. Hey everyone, Dan Millican here with Taking Off, and today we're diving into a heart-pounding story that shook southern New Jersey. On July 2nd, 2025, a Cessna 208B skydiving plane crashed into the woods at Cross Keys Airport in Williamstown and sent multiple people to the hospital. And as of this report, no fatalities, which is incredible. This incident is not the first time that this plane has been reported to the NTSB, and we'll go over that previous accident exactly 2 years prior. And it's a close call, this accident, that's got skydivers, pilots, and travelers talking, and there's a lesson here that could change how we approach safety in the sky, so stay with me to the end to catch it. And you might have heard of an eerily similar situation in news recently. We'll compare it to that similar crash in Tennessee last month that's raising big questions. Yesterday, July 2nd, I was flying my Cessna 210 out of eastern Ohio, and departing from the same ramp was a Cessna 208B. It's a good, solid plane, and we'll go over the basics of the Caravan as well. Okay, let's set the stage. It's late afternoon, 5:30 p.m. at Cross Keys Airport, a small field in Monroe Township, New Jersey, about 20 miles southeast of Philadelphia. A Cessna 208B, leased to Skydive Cross Keys, is located with 14 eager skydivers and one pilot ready for a jump from about 14,000 feet. And while I call my 210 the pickup truck of the skies, think of the Cessna 208B as a rugged, large van of the skies. It's built to haul skydivers up fast. It's not for fancy cross-country trips. It's not a speedy plane. It's got a single engine, the extremely reliable PT6 turboprop. And I've talked to pilots that have given a choice between a single PT6 or two piston engines, they'd take the single PT6 every day. The Cessna Caravan is a utility plane. It's used around the world for hauling passengers, cargo, specialty things like skydive operations. In the case of the 208 I saw on the ramp in Ohio, it was doing aerial surveying. Now, this Cessna 208B Supervan 900 was manufactured in 1999, and as of 2 years ago, it had 9,500 hours on the airframe. On July 2nd, it's not the first flight of the day. According to ADSB, it had just completed a jump flight the previous hour. On this plane, I'm sure the jumpers are pumped, and when I jumped solo last year on the flight up, there's tons of excitement with everyone's energy dialed up to 11. In my case, all the passengers on the jump plane are required to seatbelt in for the takeoff until reaching an altitude where you could safely jump out of the plane if there was trouble. In most operations, this altitude might be about 1,500 feet above the ground. ADSB data shows they got to 3,000 feet as the pilot circled back to land, announcing engine trouble. It's unknown as to why the jumpers didn't deplane at the 3,000 feet level. The plane circles back to land on the runway, and it veers off and plows 50 feet into the woods and stops in a tangle of trees and jet fuel. Per the New York Times, it got all over the passengers. All 15 aboard are injured, 5 critically, 3 seriously, but miraculously, as of this report, everyone's alive.
There were 15 souls on board in the aircraft, including the pilot. Of those 15, 1 refused medical treatment on scene. 3 were transported to Inspira Mulliga Hill by basic life support ambulance. 11 total were transported to Cooper University Hospital in Camden City, including 3 of which were reported to be critical and were flown by medical helicopter.
Okay, the challenge for this report, we need to figure out why a reliable plane crashed on takeoff and ensure that skydiving stays safe for the thousands who chase that adrenaline rush every year. And let's talk about the crash itself. The Cessna 208B reported engine trouble just after takeoff. Only 4 minutes airborne per FlightAware data. But this data can also be unreliable, so we don't know yet for sure. The pilot tried to circle back for a landing, but couldn't make it, sending the plane off the 3,500-foot runway into the woods. And when you're flying single engine, single pilot, and you have a loss of thrust on takeoff, your options are limited. Usually, good pilots will pre-brief the takeoff, covering what they'll do if they have engine problems on the runway, what you'll do if you have engine trouble just after takeoff, and what altitude, according to the current conditions, you would attempt to turn back to the runway. Before that altitude, you land straight ahead, maybe 30 degrees left and right for the best option. 3,000 feet is usually plenty for most planes, including this one, to try and return to the airport. And when you encounter a loss of thrust issue, the most important thing is to keep the airplane flying. You trade altitude for airspeed, so you pitch for your best glide speed. And this pilot made it back to the runway and veered off and went in. So he continued to fly the plane all the way through the crash. So kudos for that. The NTSB is digging into what caused it. A mechanical failure, fuel issue, and though nothing's confirmed yet, the Cessna 208B's a skydiving workhorse. But a July 3rd, 2023 runway excursion, per the NTSB final report, of this same exact plane is raising questions. In that case, 2 years ago, the pilot did not adequately flare the plane on landing, which resulted in the front landing gear collapsing and substantial damage to the aircraft, including the engine mounts. It's unclear on this more recent crash of the same plane if it's the same engine, but I'm sure that will be a focal point of the investigation. Compare this to a chillingly similar crash just weeks ago, June 8, 2025, in Tullahoma, Tennessee. A de Havilland twin otter, twin engine, carrying 20 skydivers for Skydive Tennessee, aborted takeoff at the Tullahoma Regional Airport. They clipped a tree, lost a wing, and crashed in a field trying to return to the airport. 2 were critically injured, but all survived, thank goodness. And while some of the passengers are grateful for the pilot's skill in getting them all down, sources close to the operation are pointing to fuel exhaustion as the reason the twin-engine plane crashed. Both crashes involve skydiving planes struggling on takeoff, with engine issues suspected in the Cross Keys and an aborted attempt in Tullahoma. It's putting a spotlight on jump operations, and having recently gone through multiple jumps myself, I was really impressed with the jump operator I did my skydives with. Skydive Spaceland, they were incredibly safety-minded. We were drilled on emergency procedures constantly, and maintenance looked tip-top. With these 2 recent crashes, authorities are undoubtedly taking a closer look at jump operations around the U.S. Skydiving trust factor will take a hit. Then there's the first responder response. Gloucester County declared a mass casualty incident with 5 medevac helicopters, tons of ambulance, all the others rushing to Cross Keys. Crews found passengers doused in jet fuel needing decontamination, and 1 person, likely the pilot, trapped in the wreckage. Footage showed stretchers and fire trucks swarming Tullahoma Road, a life-saving scramble, and I often talk about the importance of training. The county had recently trained for a mass casualty event at this very airport recently. They knew what to do, and they pulled it off quickly and efficiently. Hats off to all those first responders. The NTSB's investigation into Cross Keys is the heart of this quest, not just to pinpoint why this Cessna crashed, but to make skydiving safer nationwide. Early reports, per the Mirror, suggest engine trouble forced a risky return, that turn back I talked about earlier, on a runway too short to stop safely. But as I look at the data, they had the altitude to be able to do that return to the airport. The Tullahoma Twin Otter crash offers a parallel. It's a boarded takeoff with the NTSB probing maintenance and pilot decisions. Both investigations are zeroing in on small airfield challenges, the short runways, the high loads, and aging planes like the 1967 Twin Otter. The game changer, the FAA is already pushing skydiving operators to tighten maintenance and training per web reports, and Cross Keys is under scrutiny to upgrade their procedures. This isn't just about one crash. It's about ensuring every jump ends safely. The Cross Keys crash, like Tullahoma's, was a scare, but all 35 people across both incidences survived. A testament to pilot skill, fast response, and safety procedures. The NTSB's work will likely spark stricter maintenance checks, better pilot training for short runways, and maybe infrastructure upgrades at places like Cross Keys and Tullahoma. For me, this story taught a lesson I'll carry as a pilot and a person, that preparation is your lifeline. You know, even as we flew cross country in my 210 the past couple days, we drilled emergency procedures at various points in the flying. We pre-briefed every takeoff. We discussed various engine out scenarios during the flight and where we would put the plane down if we had a problem. We looked at our flight path, identifying the risky areas like flying over the Ozarks, where there's not an abundance of good landing spots if you were to need one in an emergency. In the cockpit, I'm ready for emergencies, engine sputters, tight runways, because training and vigilance saves lives. So I can apply that to my non-pilot life and know that training and vigilance can save lives. These crashes show why we check systems twice and know our limits, whether flying a Cessna or chasing a thrill. In life, it's the same. Plan ahead, stay sharp, you'll navigate the tough spots. For all of us, this means trusting operators to prioritize safety and pushing for better when they don't. Trust but verify. The skies are an adventure, but only if we keep them safe. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the Cross Keys crash and its Tennessee Twin. And thanks, Cam, for the info. A quick nod to two sponsors who make these stories possible. First, Flying Eyes Optics. Their sunglasses and regular glasses have incredibly thin frames that fit perfectly under helmets and headsets. They're great for pilots or sunny days. Visit flyingeyesoptics.com. You can use my code TAKINGOFF, all caps, for 10% off. Also, Clemens Insurance at clemensinsurance.net. They saved me over $1,000 by finding the best rates. So whether for your plane, your car, or home, check out Clemens Insurance. If this story got you thinking, check out this one on your screen for one of our more recent reports. Until next time, remember, superior judgment trumps superior skill. Take care.